One of the most underwhelming guns that came with the Polar Patriots War Bond in Helldivers 2 was the AR-61 Tenderizer. Pitched as a high-caliber assault rifle, it sounded like it should be a strong gun that packed a very good punch, but its stats revealed it to be pretty much a worse version of the base Liberator. But since then, Arrowhead has patched this weapon and reworked it to try to get it to live up to that initial description by tweaking it a bit, giving it higher damage and additional stagger, and essentially reworking how this gun operates entirely. But was that enough to make this gun actually good now? And how can you make the most of it? Dr. Pooplove here, and let's discuss. So to start, let's take a look at the stats. This thing now does 95 damage, which actually makes it the highest damage out of the assault rifle class. And according to the patch notes, it also has a durability damage of 17%. This has a mag size of 30, which is lower, and even though the patch notes say 8 total mags, it actually shows 7. The recoil on this gun is very low. In fact, it is the lowest of any assault rifle, meaning that your bullets, even when firing full auto, will stay relatively on target. And this gun also has a bit of a middle-of-the-road fire rate of 600, at least for this category of gun. The Tenderizer is light armor penetrating, which does end up giving it some limitation in effectiveness, and we will discuss more on that. The handling, though, on this is very tight, and it has 3 fire modes, although I prefer full auto here, as you can always end up pulsing it to the level that you want. The scope is nice to use too, and it really feels good to use at nearly all ranges, even close range, which I usually don't like to use scopes for. On paper, all of this looks great, but how does this actually do when you take it out on the battlefield? Well, let's start with the bugs first, and then we're going to get to the automatons. Now, versus the little guys, the accuracy and very high damage makes very quick work of them. Versus the hunters, it shreds them very well. Again, with the handling and the high damage, they are no match for the Tenderizer. Warriors, they go down fast. Stalkers, they go down fast. Shriekers too are taken out of the sky super quickly. With that tight handling and precision, you can get them fast. Versus the Hive Guards, you are at a little bit of a disadvantage, given that it has medium armor and you only have light armor penetration. But the very nice accuracy of this gun will help you shoot through those cracks and ultimately take them down. And the Brood Commanders, they also go down well. Although you do have some additional stagger to this gun, it kicks in a little bit late and isn't really the strongest, but the high damage of this thing still takes them out very quickly, so you don't really have to worry. Bile Spewers, they aren't bad either. You do have to go for the sacks though, given their medium armor, but the durability damage of this gun really helps, and you can take them out in about 1 mag, as long as you're not missing, and since it is precise, you don't really miss that much. Now, the Chargers do seem to take a few mags, and that can feel like a lot, but it will get them done in a pinch. And it goes without saying, Bile Titans aren't the best, but you can go for that sack if you want to. I will say, overall versus the bugs, this is a solid option. The high damage and the good handling can get them quickly with precision, but it can be a little bit limited by this lower magazine size, and that can kind of hurt you versus the general horde. Even though you can take the bugs out quickly, you might feel like you're out of bullets too soon. What makes it a little bit harder is that the reload as well can take a long time, and that can definitely be detrimental. But a pro strat here is when you're firing this thing, make sure that you reload before you exhaust your magazine down to 0. Doing this ends up removing part of that reload animation, and so you can just be reloaded much quickly and be back in the fight much faster. Okay, so we covered the bugs, but what if we take this across the galaxy to face off against the bots? Well, I have to say, this is actually absolutely great for the bots. It takes the little guys out very quickly, which is nice. And the tight handling means you can go from target to target quickly and without missing much. Now, although you are limited to light armor penetration enemies, you can still use the Tenderizer versus the Walker, because you do have a lot of good precision and accuracy that you can end up sniping their heads from the top pretty well. It's not available from all angles, but typically you can find a little elevation and just take them out rather than running around and getting them from behind. Versus the Berserkers, the stagger doesn't really kick in enough, but the damage is so high that you end up taking them down pretty quickly, and so it's still pretty effective versus these guys. And versus the Devastators, I really do like the Tenderizer. It takes about 2 shots to the head, and the precision makes that fairly easy to accomplish. As long as they're not flinching you, you can do this pretty easily. If that doesn't work though, you can make quick work of them by going for their waist, and this will take them out pretty quickly. You can also take the rockets off these guys very fast. You can even remove their arms, especially from the shielded guys, very fast. And while you don't have medium armor penetration for the chest of these Devastators, you have a lot of solid options here. And again, the precision of this gun makes it very effective versus these bots. Now taking it to the Hulk, it can also make quick work of those back vents. Precision can make that easier. Of course, moving on up, you don't really have much luck versus anything like the tanks, the gunships, or the factory striders due to the light armor penetration level. So that will be a bit of a downside for the bots. But honestly, I still think this is great to pick up against these guys. The precision and the good handling especially comes in handy, especially because of all the long range fights that you will likely get into. The high damage means you can take them out quickly, and being full auto, it even means you can miss a few shots and still be successful. Now, you should still pulse fire this thing a bit rather than just hold down the trigger all the way, but it is nice because it is so much more precise that you actually can hold it down a little bit longer than a lot of these other assault rifles. All in all, I'm very happy with the changes that Arrowhead made to the Tenderizer. It now has its own unique character that stands out amongst the assault rifle class, but it's also very effective versus the bugs and especially the bots, giving you a solid option if you like using assault rifles. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and I want to say thank you to my YouTube members for joining the Bowel Movement. But otherwise, so long, Pooper Troopers.